Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
"This is not how the world ends." Today on Near Mint Condition, I, the uncanny Omar, am going to be giving you an advanced look at the S.h.i.e.L.D. by Hickman and Weaver Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So let's take a look at what exactly this book is together. And welcome back, everybody. So, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on October 21st or 22nd, depending on where you get your books. What we are looking at here is the direct market cover. This is the one that's supplied by the series artist Dustin Weaver, and it features a bunch of different characters, which we'll talk about here in a second. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover, and that one is supplied by Gerald Parel, and that's the one that's going to be available everywhere. There really isn't a difference in the spine. Both of them have that symbol at the bottom, which is a big part of the story. So let's shift the focus back to this cover right here. So this cover showcases a lot of our key players that play a huge part in the book. And to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about S.h.i.e.L.D., because I think when people think of S.h.i.E.L.D., immediately you go with Nick Fury, and of course you should, but we are looking at characters like Galileo and Nostradamus and Isaac Newton. And I don't want to say who is who here, but I'll explain who the rest are as we open up the book. But that's the kind of stories that Jonathan Hickman and Dustin Weaver were telling. Let's look at the spine of the book. Marvel Omnibus, S.h.i.e.L.D. by Hickman and Weaver, and that logo down there again. And then the back of the book, The Secret History of S.h.i.e.L.D., and that's what this is exactly. And that character right there will play a main part of the story, and that is Leonid. And rated Teen Plus, ISBN. The retail price for this one is $75. Now, this has previously been released in a series of trade paperbacks and also 2 oversized hardcovers, which I'll be doing a internal comparison to here in a little bit. But to kind of give you an idea, this is one of those OHCs, including the actual symbol down there at the bottom, S.h.i.e.L.D. And the first one was the Architects of Tomorrow. The second, what was the second one called? I think it was called the Forever Engine, or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was the Human Machine. That's what it was called. And then, of course, I don't know why I'm showing the backs of the books, but I will be doing a comparison to this. Let's look underneath the dust jacket. By the way, these all come from different covers and pinups, and they just put it together for the direct market cover. And decorating the art on board here are different panels from inside of the book, showcasing some of the scenes. Not super important spoilery scenes, but some of the scenes from in here. All right, let's go ahead and get this book open and talk about the type of stories found in here, and look at the extras, and of course the build, and compare it to the oversized hardcover. Okay, let's go ahead and get this open. You have your end sheets right here, and your title page, S.h.i.e.L.D. Does it still stand for Strategic Hazard Intervention Espionage Logistics Directorate, or does it stand for something else? And yes, I know it was, what was it, Supreme Headquarters International Espionage, and then I think the MCU is something else too, Strategic Homeland Intervention. But does it still stand for that? Maybe. Writer, Jonathan Hickman. Artist, Dustin Weaver. Now, he's not the only artist. Later on, you'll see other artists too, but that's mainly for the one shot. Your colorists over here, like Christina Strain and Sonia Obach, taking the top billing, lettering all by Todd Klein. And just like every other Jonathan Hickman book, no covers. All the way in the back is where you're going to find all the covers and the variant covers. They are broken up into different chapters, though. And each chapter has a different name. So at least you'll know what issue you are on. And speaking of issues, collected in here is S.h.i.e.L.D. 1 through 6, the original 2010 series, the director's cut of S.h.i.e.L.D. 1 through 4 from 2011, and then the S.h.i.e.L.D. issues 5 through 6 plus S.h.i.e.L.D. Infinity. The book has a total of 384 pages and retails again for $75. What I'm going to do, because I don't want to spoil this for anybody, because I know how people are with Jonathan Hickman stories. They want to be surprised, and I get it. But if you need a pitch, I'm going to give you the pitch by basically spoiling what happens in the first issue and just a little bit as to what the series later on you can expect from it. So just in case, yes, spoilers for the first issue. Okay. At the very first page, this, by the way, is a really quick read, which surprisingly isn't like all the other Jonathan Hickman books. The series starts off in New York in 1953 and primarily takes place then. So it is something that takes place before actual S.h.i.e.L.D. in the current Marvel universe, the 616 universe. It is in continuity, though. This is introducing us to our main protagonist, who we will follow around, and this is Leonid. Leonid is a special human being. And he is not really abducted. He's asked to get into a car by these two strangers, who we will reveal here in a little bit in issue number 1. He ends up going to Rome. And in Rome, he is taken to this secret lair of this city that was built upon cities, and it is called the Immortal City. And here is where he is going to find out that he has been chosen because this is a secret society. This is a place where people fight and have been fighting for humanity. And he is given a quick, and we will come back to this later on too, little recap as to how S.h.i.e.L.D. got started and how long they've been around. So we'll tell who is telling the story here in a second. In 2620 BC, we start off with a pharaoh that is defeated by the Brood. That's right, the Brood. And it doesn't go into details. It's just like these 2 pages, and then we'll have the double page spread next. Until he is approached, until they are approached by Imhotep. Now, if you notice Imhotep's army here, there are some familiar characters. Some of them could be the Fist of Khonshu, and some of them could be En-Sabanur, of course, who will later become Apocalypse. Together with this army, they defeat the Brood and hold up a shield. We honor him with our name, and that's where the shield comes from. So apparently, S.h.i.e.L.D. has been around long before we thought they were. So this stranger who's wearing these weird outfit along with his fellow S.h.i.e.L.D. architects are talking about how humanity has always needed help and S.h.i.e.L.D. has always been there. So he starts telling the story in, now it's 114 AD, and it is the story of Zhang He. And he starts talking about how they were attacked back then and how they put a stop to it. And it was a celestial, as you find out, that plays a big important part later on. And I promise all of this is connected, because if you know anything about Jonathan Hickman, the stories aren't really connected. You're kind of lost at first, because you're like, man, we went through that way too quick. Is that Apocalypse? I promise things keep going back to these stories, as everything is connected by one big piece, and I'm not even talking about Leonid. And then we go into Florence, 1495, where we see Pietro. He is one of the assistants to none other than Leonardo da Vinci, who is building a machine that's going to help humanity. And we'll come back to that later. Then we move to Florence in 1503, where we see da Vinci actually put together this flying machine with something special right here. Something that will save the world. And he takes off flying. And that is part of the great machine of progress. And then we go to Rome in 1582, where we see Galileo here fighting off against what appears to be Galactus. Like, these are big deals. Again, you're just getting a page of a story and then a double page spread and continuing the history of S.h.i.e.L.D. If I was like Leonid, I'd be like, can we slow down a little bit and tell me more about that big giant celestial, or maybe that dude that was trying to eat the worlds? Of course, Galactus isn't really known in the 50s here, if we're following Marvel continuity. As it turns out, he does decide to stay because they are S.h.i.e.L.D. and they want him to join them. Now, as he's laying in his room 3 years later, we get you get a quick little recap as to that he has been learning a lot through them, and he is approached by this guy right here known as the Night Machine, who is also his father. And I don't want to reveal who this is. That's why I have to also be careful in the back. And now Night Machine wants to take him somewhere and show him things. And there's a dove here that talks, and I promise all of this is explained later, because at first it sounds like nonsense, and it might as well be. But this is the Eater. And the Eater hasn't been opened because the key was lost forever. Right. And that's when Night Machine opens up the door and tells him to go to the top, because at the top will be the answer that he is looking for. So he has spent 3 years here working with S.h.i.e.L.D., learning things, and now he is visited by his superhuman father, who he hasn't seen in 3 years, known as Night Machine. And he does say something about perhaps S.h.i.e.L.D. had done something to him in the past. Night Machine has, and that's why he's been away. But he gives him that key to access that secret area. And as he is fighting off against S.h.i.e.L.D.'s military here, he is attacked by these two characters. And now we get to find out who they are. That is Agent Richards and Agent Stark. So if we go back to the very beginning when I said, remember, we'll come back to these guys. That is Agent Richards and Agent Stark. And who is Agent Richards and Stark? Well, if you've been reading the Marvel comics for a long time, we are talking about Howard Stark and Nathaniel Richards. Characters well established in the 616 universe. The fathers of Tony Stark, of course, and Reed Richards. And this is one of those retcons that makes complete sense if you think about it, you know, especially time traveling Nathaniel Richards and then some of the stuff that happened to Howard Stark. So he goes to the top, listening to his father, Night Machine. And who approaches him? Well, none other than Leonardo da Vinci. The last time we saw him was in his own year, saying that he was building something special, that he was building something for humanity. And that's when he appears here at the end in 1953. So he's a time traveler? Maybe. An immortal? And of course, just like every other Hickman book, there's text. Believe it or not that much compared to some of the other stuff that he's written, especially like the Krakoa era. And that's really what I wanted to pitch to you all. And I want to talk a little bit more about the stories in here because there are other characters. As you find out, it is Sir Isaac Newton that is in charge of S.h.i.e.L.D. He is holding Nostradamus and making Nostradamus like tell him the future, and has been holding Nostradamus for a long time. How they're alive, well, that is a secret that is revealed through here. The big thing that happens through this book, and what the rest of the book will be about, because there is a lot, is this conflict between Isaac Newton and Leonardo da Vinci. And it's almost like Leonid has to choose between both of them. There's also a tale of the Forever Man, and the Celestial having perhaps a star child that will become a big important part of this. And some of this has to do with legacy. Some of it has to do with who exactly Leonid's father is. And is it really his father, or is he related to perhaps someone else? And it's a big mystery, and it ties it all into the Marvel Universe with some text right here from time to time. Just about every issue has a text. And yes, there is a secret cult society. Yes, there's talks of immortality. And then there's hints as to perhaps other things that you can expect later on if you're a big Marvel reader. Do you need to know everything about the Marvel Universe to enjoy this story? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, this can be read by anybody. Like, that's the beauty of a story like this, because this is already retconning stories in the 616 universe. But it's the good kind of retcon that I like. It doesn't really bother anything or touch anything that has happened since then. It doesn't bother anything that happened with Nathaniel Richards appearing later on, nor stories with Howard Stark. It's just really cool that S.h.i.e.L.D. started with people like Galileo and Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton, Zhang Heng and Imhotep. All those characters, Archimedes. And you will see more characters like that show up through here. There was an issue, and no pun intended, with the series, and that is the delays. You don't have to worry about that. But believe it or not, so there was S.h.i.e.L.D. 1 through 6 that came out. That's the first volume. And then S.h.i.e.L.D. 1 through 6 from the second volume. The second volume, I think it was issues 4, maybe 3. There was 7 years in between 2 issues. They could be between issues 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. And please correct me in the comments down below. I think it's issues 3 and 4, maybe 4 and 5. One of those. There was 7 years. That means that the stories that happened in that issue, in the previous issue, happened before he wrote things like Fantastic Four or Avengers or Secret Wars. And then the stuff that came afterwards was in 2018, like right before he started writing The Dawn of X. So at least they finished the series. So yes, the next, like the last half of the book is nothing but a huge struggle, a power struggle between the characters of Isaac Newton and the characters of Leonardo da Vinci, and where all these other characters kind of like where they fit. Because if it's a power struggle between the two and the character of Leonid has to choose, where does everybody else fit in, and what does that Celestial have to do with any of the story? And what does Galileo have to do, Archimedes or Nostradamus? There is an issue, I think it's issue number 10. In issue number 10, I can already see some questions, like people will be saying, hey Omar, I think I have a misprint. I promise you don't. I promise you don't. It's just the way that he writes the story. It feels like a loop. So just going ahead and jumping ahead of time to let you know that no, you're not. It's not a misprint. It's just the way that, like, these pages look very similar for a reason. And Dustin Weaver's art, by the way, really like just brings this to another level. I love stories like this when they're introducing us to a secret society that could have happened a long time ago, and it doesn't affect anything that you have read after this. You could have read S.h.i.e.L.D. with Nick Fury, and does it tie? That's the big question, right? Or one of the big questions. Does it tie it into the S.h.i.e.L.D. with Nick Fury and all those characters like Dum Dum Dugan? You know what? No, you can find that out. I'll let you find out. I will say that there are several Easter eggs all around this book. And it's a privilege to know a lot of Marvel history and find them in the background, or find them like almost right in front of your face, like hidden underneath your nose. And I really like when he does that. I like when Hickman does that. So if you've read a lot of Marvel comics, then yes, this will definitely feel like, oh my gosh, like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Now, the Infinity comic is all the way in the back, and these are done by different artists, and that makes sense for it to be all the way in the back, because those stories can be read at any time, and I'm going backwards here with the covers. But the cover gallery. So, just like all the other Jonathan Hickman books, we do have the cover gallery in the back. And we do have some of the variant covers. This is the Infinity one right here. And then this is the variant that we saw that they put together for the direct market cover. Isaac Newton saying Hang, and I don't want to spoil who that character is, and nor that character. So let's keep moving. Mina, and there we go. And this weird variant. Night Machine. And this kind of gives you a little bit of like information as to how these characters were created, or what their designs were supposed to look like. And the key, man, I love this stuff. So if you like his stories that he has done, like even his own like independent stories that he's done in the past. Sorry, I had to skip the last couple of pages because they reveal some characters. So here's your end sheets. But what I was trying to say is that if you like stories, go ahead and look at the binding. It is sewn binding, and there's that eye. Like his Pax Romana or the Nightly News. And of course, the book has 384 pages. You'll probably enjoy this book. It's a lot more like that than his other stuff, his mainstream Marvel books. Now, the book is printed at the Mega Print, and it does have glossy paper stock with minimal bleed through happening. And there's a lot of dark pages here. There are a lot of double page spreads, though. So let's take a look at this one, for example. We saw the eye, so it does have an eye. And there is minimal gutter loss happening. And it's very important to have that minimal gutter loss because a book like this has a lot of double page spreads. Like this amazing double page spread here. Yeah, man, even if you had put me on mute, you still see pictures like that going, what? What is Galactus doing back then? Why can't he remember? I promise a lot of the stuff is explained. Is everything explained? It's a Hickman book. Some things, well, let's just hope he comes back one day to actually explain. Okay, what I wanted to do is look at the books and compare them together. This is the oversized hardcover, and this is, of course, the omnibus. The colors on the oversized hardcover seem a little more darker. This is kind of a little bit lighter. You can tell by the skin tones. And let's see if we can find... Yeah, you can definitely see a lot more red over here than over here. But let's look at the double page spread, because I am curious. Because this does have, I think, actually, no, this is glued binding. So you do have more of a gutter loss over here than you do in the omnibus edition. And the paper stock seems actually, I don't know, that... seems about the same thickness, honestly. Yeah, they seem to be about the same thickness. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Omni. In the comments down below, let me know if you plan on picking this up, if you have the oversized hardcovers, or if you haven't even heard of this particular series, and you're just a fan of Hickman, and you have to have everything that Hickman does. And if you've read it, what you think of the stories, if you want them to return back to these characters, or if you hope these characters pop up somewhere. But that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.